So we do hope that in the near future, we will be able to organize a different event, hopefully at the Meliá White House in central London, physically with a nice breakfast. Without further ado, I'll hand over now to Albert Coy, who is a member of the board and country head of Banco Sabadell in the city. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Eduardo. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, dear colleagues of the Chamber and attendees to this Meliá breakfast. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce today's session. The bank I represent, Sabadell, takes pride in being a significant investor in the UK. We're the owners of retail bank TSB, which has over 5 million customers and over 8,000 employees. Our corporate banking operation started over 40 years ago, helping UK and Spanish businesses thrive. It's been a long and sometimes challenging journey, but very fruitful so far, and we trust that we will be able to support the economy with the same level of success going forward. Thank you very much, Minister, for being here today. We know that your agenda is very busy, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Minister Wendy Morton has been the Member for Parliament for Aldridge Brownhills since May 2015. She is currently Parliamentary and Secretary of State in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and the Department for International Development. Previous to that, she was Parliamentary and Secretary at the Ministry of Justice. She has also held the position of Assistant Government Whip and Parliamentary Private Secretary to Ministers at the Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy and to the Secretary of State for International Development. Before becoming MP, Wendy served as Vice Chairman of the Conservative Party, and amongst others, she held responsibility for social action, for which she has been a strong advocate for many years, including being the joint leader for Project Umubano in Africa. On a more personal note, she could professionally talk to us about Art Deco ceramics, or what is the best barge to navigate river canals with. But today, we're here to talk about her views on the post-economic relationship between Spain and the UK. So without further ado, Minister, welcome, and I now hand over the floor to you.
Muchas gracias, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be able to I say join with you, although it is a virtual meeting. So I have got my cup of coffee at hand for what is very much, I hope, first of many breakfast meetings with you. I often think that we are working in the new norm at the moment, or la nueva normalidad. But we find and we adapt to the situation that we were in. But I wanted to speak this morning about the relationship between the UK and Spain and its critical importance to our relationship with the EU. And that was going to be my starting point. My technology has just had a bit of a hiccup at the moment, but never mind. But I also want to touch on our recovery from COVID-19. But I'm going to keep my speaking fairly brief, because I want us to have some time for some questions, and I want to hear from you as well this morning. Now, there are nearly 200,000 Spanish people living here in the UK. They are part of our society, and they include medical staff, teachers, city workers, and scientists. And likewise, there are more than 250,000 Brits who have made their home in Spain, more than anywhere else in the UK. Millions more, under normal circumstances, visit your beautiful beaches and spectacular cities every year. And all these citizens play their part in our relationship. Turning to trade and economics, last year, 2019, the UK and Spain were each other's largest foreign investors. The flow of UK investment in Spain reached nearly €5 billion. UK exports to Spain increased by 6% year on year, and Spanish exports to the UK increased about the same. And as we build and rebuild after COVID, this fantastic economic relationship will see us through some of the biggest challenges. The UK and Spain, tragically, are among the worst affected by COVID-19. We've seen devastating numbers of people who have lost their lives. And I think it's fair to say that every one of us has been affected or has suffered in some way. As you know, we still have a hill to climb before we can beat this pandemic. But I do believe we are beginning to recover, and it's time now to look for some green shoots. But no single country has all the answers on how we do that. Ending this crisis will take all of us working together across borders to develop a vaccine and get it to everyone who needs it, wherever they are. None of us are safe until we are all safe. But as we recover and we rebuild, we have an opportunity to build back better. Our children and their families will live with the decisions that we make today, both on the pandemic and on how we tackle climate change. I know that Spain stepped in to host COP25, and when the current crisis has passed, the UK will host COP26 in 2021 with Italy. I know that Spain and the UK will both keep leading the way in climate ambition well after COVID. Around the world, we will work together as champions for a clean, resilient and inclusive recovery, guided by the Paris Agreement. So we are really grateful that our links don't stop with trade. We're lucky enough to have the wisdom of around 5,000 scientists contributing to world-leading research at UK universities. Beyond the transition period, we want to carry on hosting them, along with the thousands of Spanish students who contribute to our campuses. And meanwhile, in Spain, there are over 120 accredited British schools, the second largest number in the world outside the UK, educating 55,000 students at any one time. These are the connections that we build our shared future upon. Now, I know you'll be keen to know about our negotiations and future political relationship with the EU. The end of this year will be the start of the UK's new life independent of the EU. And of course, we want to continue our close trading relationship with the EU and all its member states, based on friendly cooperation and centred on free trade. The question is whether we can agree with the EU a deeper trading relationship. That might be on the lines of the free trade agreements the EU has with Canada, or one based on the 2019 deal without an FTA on the line of Australia's. And so far this month, we've held 2 weeks of face-to-face negotiations with the EU, and these have been comprehensive and useful. While significant differences remain between the two parties' positions, we did not expect these to be resolved overnight, but we are engaging seriously and in good faith in these discussions, and we will continue to do so. So I'm going to stop there and open up for some questions. I know I've been sent a few in advance, but I'm sure that there will be plenty for us to talk about this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much for an insightful speech. And I wanted to kick off myself with one question. Within the framework that we currently have in government policy of leveling up the regions, there will be a substantial investment in infrastructure and in different development projects. Which will be the opportunities to for Spanish companies to participate in those projects in terms of execution, construction, management, investment, etc.?
I think that's a really good question, and it's the sort of question I would really I would expect from a chamber of commerce, and having worked in business for many years myself before coming into politics. I mean, I suppose it's, you know, part of this is very much Department of Trade policy more than FCO. But that said, I mean, the Prime Minister has been very clear about, you know, getting the construction industry moving, and about investment in infrastructure projects. And I think we will have to see where those opportunities come. But I know that they will. But I think it's fair to say that any infrastructure project will be certainly subject to the competitive processes for tendering. And so I very much see that's where the opportunities will come from for businesses from Spain or from anywhere. I know that you've had, I believe, ministers from the Department of Trade speak to the chamber before, but I do think that challenging though the last few months have been, wherever there is a challenge, there are also opportunities, and we've been very, very clear about levelling up, building back better, and about opportunities that will be coming forward.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now, next question comes from Juan Botín from Santander. That is one of our patrons and also a member of the executive board as our vice president.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Wendy Morning, for having this meeting with us this morning. As you know, Santander is the largest investor in UK from a Spanish one. So my question could be a combination of what you have probably started to develop, and it's taking in consideration in the current global context of economic, social, and health crisis caused by COVID-19 pandemic, and the post-Brexit scenario that emerged in the UK from January 2021 could seem the perfect storm for trade and investment opportunities to develop in UK. So my question is, you could probably give us a little bit more information. What special measures does the British government have to mitigate these two scenarios? Many thanks, Wendy.
Thank you. And again, a really good question. And you're right. We do face a number of challenges. I see it in my own local constituency from businesses, but they're also, like yourself, looking for opportunities, and that's what it's all about. I think in terms of special measures, though, the Chancellor has, in the last few weeks, really set out some innovative ways in which we are hoping to really kickstart the economy and get things moving and recovering again. And if some of this started earlier on in the COVID pandemic with support for businesses through grants and through job retention schemes. I think we're going to have to really think about skills as well for the future. What do we need for the economies that will continue to grow and that may even emerge from this? So there was grants, there was schemes, but I say in the last, in his statement last week, some really innovative announcements to encourage us all to go out and shop more, or to shop again, to go and support restaurants and pubs and bars and that sector of the hospitality industry as well. So quite a lot of measures there. And then if you add to that the Prime Minister's determination to invest in infrastructure, like in the previous question I was answering, I think these are all really good indications of the sorts of measures and the sorts of direction that we're seeking to move in. I always maintain that business is never static, and you always have to keep looking forward, looking for where those opportunities are, but also trying to work your way through the more challenging times as well. And whilst our focus has been and rightly so around COVID, it's still there. It's right that alongside that we also have to address the economic situation and as well.
Thank you very much for your kind reply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Juan. So the next question comes from our call that you already know from from your biographical introduction. Albert, please.
Yes, Minister, thank you for the comments on your introduction. My question is related to what you said about the vaccine, and I know how much money has gone into the projects in the UK. However, the situation on both a national and international basis is quite challenging, where on the one hand, we're trying to kickstart the economy, and on the other one, we're not kind of getting still people to get going in terms of feeling safe out and about. Particularly in the UK is even more challenging because we have the heavy weight of the kind of train of the economies in London, where the public transport is even more challenging. So how do we balance that? What message do we have to put forward so that people stop being scared and they go back to the offices and start filling up those bars and restaurants and hospitality sector?
I think that's a really salient point, particularly at the moment, as we're really trying to unlock the economy and get people, I suppose, readapting to what life used to be, but with the challenges that we face. I mean, firstly, in terms of the vaccine, yes, we Prime Minister has really led the way in a lot of that work, and we recognise, you know, we've invested into CEPI. We hosted the Gavi summit at the beginning of June, and finding a vaccine, the work continues. You know, no one country has got all the resource or capacity to do that, and we need a vaccination program that will really reach out globally, because this is a virus that has no respect for borders or boundaries. But until we have found that vaccine and we have a vaccination program in place, then we have to find ways of, yes, making the public feel safe, but be able to try and develop a way of life that reflects the situation that we're in, that keeps them safe. So you know, I think the messaging about social distancing and the wearing of masks, the washing of hands, some of the basic hygiene is as important today as it was at the start of the pandemic. And I think this is the way that that's the messaging that we need to continue to emphasize. But alongside that, there is obviously the testing and the tracking and tracing mechanisms. And if I just share one little example with you, I visited a pub restaurant in local to me just the day before they were due to open, and I was really impressed by the measures they had put in place, and I felt really reassured that I would go back. You know, I would go back and have a meal or have a drink, because from the minute you walked in the door, you could sense that they had followed that whole process through, and the chain that they were part of had been part of that process. So I think it'll be a combination of you know, the government's direction. It's also incumbent upon us all as individuals as well to take some responsibility. But you know, it will. I think it will take a bit of time. But you know, every day I go out, I certainly see a few more people out on the high street, which is a good sign. But we need to do it in a sensible way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert. Thank you, Minister. So the next question comes from Chen Xiao Hubu from Del Canto Chambers, actually our newest patron in the chamber. Chen Xiao, please.
Good morning. Thank you,
Morning.
Honourable Minister, for sharing your views on the impact of Brexit on the bilateral relationship between the UK and Spain. As Del Canto Chambers is comprised by dually qualified abogados and barristers in Spain and the UK, we also have a passion in advocating for business relationship between the UK and Spanish-speaking countries. Therefore, I would like to kindly invite you to share your advice or maybe words of relief for all those Anglo-Spanish businesses in the UK, Spain, and Latin America who have uncertainty about what will be the climate for their trading and investment activities after the Brexit becomes fully effective. Thank you very much.
I mean, when it comes to the relationship between the UK and Spain, I know just how important that is. I also know just how important trade is to our two countries, and the sorts of trade that the key sectors that are trading with the UK and vice versa, be that in services, financial services, or transport, or be it in cars and manufacturing, or indeed in tourism as well. So I absolutely do understand the strength of the business relationships between our two countries. And actually, this morning for me is a good opportunity to establish a relationship with the Chamber and understand a little bit more about your role and the work that you do. And as you know, we are in the transition period now, and we've been very, very clear that we're not seeking an extension to the transition period, that we will come out of the EU by the end of this year, and I think that provides some clarity and some certainty, because I think one of the things that business it can make it even more challenging is uncertainty, and so the transition period will end at the end of 2020, and we continue with our negotiations, as I mentioned in my opening remarks this morning, and seeing where those negotiations will take us. But we want a relationship with the EU that is based on friendly cooperation, but between sovereign equals, and that is centred on free trade. And we believe it would be straightforward to agree a set of agreements with a free trade agreement at the core, like those that the EU has agreed with other close partners around the world, and that's what we are seeking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anshao. And the next question comes from Adam Munday from Meliá Hotels International, and it's very special because, as you know, these are the Meliá Business Breakfast webinars, so that means that if it wasn't for the COVID crisis, we would actually be physically enjoying one excellent breakfast at the Meliá White House. So please, Adam, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister.
Morning.
As Nacho said, I represent Meliá Hotels International, and we have 3 hotels in London, 1 in the north of the UK, and 2 under construction in the north. Our foundations of our company was born by English tourists traveling to Spain in the 1960s and 1970s, and we are proud of our strong links to the UK. Sadly, right now, as you can imagine, we are seeing more cancellations than bookings, especially in our Balearic Island hotels, and with new restrictions in the islands this week of wearing face masks in public areas or public spaces has now turned what bookings we had into cancellations. So I think my question for you is, the government clearly have stepped in and delivered some fantastic initiatives. The most beneficial to my businesses has been the furlough scheme, which I think most people would agree with. But I do think we are sat on a problem that is going to get pretty big on us pretty soon. In London, with no tourists traveling from America or China, it really leaves thousands and thousands of hotel bedrooms empty. And my comment to you is, what do you think the government's response has been to the hospitality industry? And do you think there's anything more that the government could do to help, in particular, the hospitality industry that employs so many people and sadly looking at so many redundancies at the moment?
Thank you for that question, and I think you make a really good point there. Our streets are empty of the tourists that we would normally see at this time of year. I know when I go down Whitehall past Trafalgar Square, it's normally thronging at this time of year. It's visibly very, very quiet. I think the government has has done a lot to support business right across the piece. You recognise the furlough scheme. There's been various grants and other mechanisms as well. I mean, I will certainly pass your comments back. I mean, I hope that gradually we can get people's confidence back, because I think that's part of it as well, so that they feel confident to go on holiday. Now, that might take a little time. I mean, I think the opening of the air bridges between the UK and certain countries, including Spain, and the relaxation of some of those quarantine measures as well, are ways in which we can, I sincerely hope will encourage people to start and think about holiday and booking their holidays as well. We all know that travel is never without risk, but the risks that now have to be managed and mitigated in a different way to where the holidays that we were planning, say last year. So I think we're going to have to continue to watch this, and we see sporadic outbreaks of COVID-19, in the UK and in Spain, and I think how we manage those as well will also be really, really important, because that's how also people will start and feel whether they feel comfortable or confident to travel again. So I think it's something that we need to continue to watch and to monitor. But undoubtedly, like many other sectors, the hospitality industry relies on people.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
People being generally in quite close proximity to one another. And until we find a vaccine, then one of the measures of mitigating COVID is keeping that distance.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important that we recognise that the work continues to find that vaccine as well. So we have to have an approach that covers off various different angles. But I seriously do appreciate the challenges that you're facing.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Adam. I will now pass to read some questions that have come to us through WhatsApp and through email. First, Patrick Lowen asked, what are you optimistic in arriving to agreements on voting rights for EU citizens in the UK and British citizens abroad? In the case of Spain, it's not a problem because we have an agreement since January 2019. But are you positive to get an agreement like this for other countries?
Well, you're right in terms of Spain. I think we will just have to wait and see. Naturally, I'm always an optimistic person. However, to be specific to the point raised, we have recently signed a voting rights agreement with Poland, but we will have to, as I say, beyond that, we will have to wait and see, and see where we go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Another question that we have received is, how do you guarantee that Spanish hotels and construction companies will be able to recruit the so-called low-skilled workers?
Do you mean here in the UK, presumably?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Well, I mean, I think it's really about having an attractive recruitment campaign. It's also about encouraging people in those sectors. I think sometimes we have to also challenge the way that we perhaps look at sectors as well, and encourage people or make them aware of some of the opportunities that are out there. I mean, at the moment, some of those sectors, those staff are still furloughed. So we will have to see how we've just, been speaking about the hotel industry, the hospitality industry in particular. But I think it's important that we recognise, the diversity of the job market in the UK, and go out there and proactively recruit and show particularly young people what is available. I think also, I'm a big fan of apprentices and building people's skills, as well as the university route, and looking at vocational training, so and promoting that side of things as well, as a way of encouraging people into perhaps the hospitality sector and into construction. There are really good jobs out there. There's a whole different range of skills that are out there. It's about finding the right job for the right person.
Okay. Just if I may follow up on that question, you mentioned the vocational training. Obviously, there is a lapse of time that it takes for that vocational training to take into place. And do you think that we could be in a situation that at least transitorily those jobs could be included into the list? Like, I think it may probably happen with some jobs in the NHS that are considered that there are a particular shortage, and then you can get additional points.
That would be very much a Home Office matter. I think what you're referring to is very much our policy on skills and workers coming into the UK. So I'd probably be very much treading on the toes of the Home Office if I start to comment on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question that comes is, what do you envisage the Brexit deal will look like? An agreement covering all areas, or a more de minimis agreement?
Oh, sorry, meaning?
And the Brexit deal, what do you think will look like? An agreement covering all areas, or more a minimal agreement, like just covering the last?
Well, like I said, the negotiations are still very much ongoing. There's a huge amount of work going on both sides. I think that the key part is working through the transition period, on the detail of matters like borders and citizens' rights, but also on negotiating what our trading relationship is going to be at the end of the year, whether it's more Canada style or whether it's Australia style, or where that final position is. So I'm not really a betting lady, but I think those negotiations are ongoing. We want a good, close way of cooperating and of doing trade. But I think we just have to let those negotiations continue. But rest assured, we are absolutely determined and serious about those negotiations and continue to do so and seek to have those concluded as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. And just making a follow-up on that question, with respect to the financial sector, that it's quite well. It's my own industry, and as well as an industry where Spain has a strong presence here. We had interventions from Juan Botín, from Santander, and from Albert Cole, from Sabadell, that are the owners of TSB, two of the big high street banks. The thing is that, how do you see the deal in what pertains to the financial sector? Do you see it as it kind of looks like steering towards an equivalence regime, or do you think we will have something a bit more sophisticated than that?
Okay. Well, I mean, firstly, I recognise the importance of the financial services sector to Spain. I know it's about, I think, isn't it, ranks 4th in terms of Spain's exports to the UK. So I know how important that is to you. You know, like I said, we're continuing with our negotiations and our discussion with the EU. You know, the last 2 weeks we had 2 weeks of face-to-face negotiations, which were really comprehensive and really useful. And you know, we've got to continue with those negotiations. You know, and the process of talks is very much intensified. But I think it would be wrong of me to try and speculate where that will ultimately take us. But like I say, the UK team, it takes it really seriously. We're engaging in those negotiations, and we will continue to do so, because, you know, quite understandably, we recognise just how important this is to us all.
Thank you very much. And we have one last question from Yolanda Mayordomo from Iberdrola. That is one of our patrons. You know, Iberdrola is the owner of Scottish Power. And she was asking about the green side of the recovery, the green recovery, the thing that I think it has been one of the mottos, like rebuild different, like rebuild in a more environmental way. What's your view on that?
I think it should be an essential part, and it's an essential part of what we do. I think we do talk about building back better, and for me that does mean about building back in a more sustainable way. You know, like Spain, we are, you know, very, very much committed to and interested in climate. And you know, I think if there is something that we can take away from COVID-19, if we, you know, in the process of rebuilding, it should always be about trying to rebuild in a better way for future generations. And so I see that as very much part of what we do moving forward. We'll have COP26 is on the horizon, obviously, for next year, which is all being well COVID dependent, I imagine. You know, but and that piece of work, and just highlighting why it is important, and why our environment matters, why our climate matters, and why sustainability matters as well.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now I will pass on the word to Cristina Ginés from CENER, another member of our executive committee, and she will make the concluding remarks. So,
thank you.
Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Nacho, and also thank you, Eduardo, for giving me the chance to do these closing remarks today. And I would like to thank all the participants as well, because they've been attending all the events from the Chamber, and I just wanted to encourage them to keep on doing so. That's a very good thing. On a personal level, Minister, let me thank you first, the Spanish Chamber, because I think they have been keeping up in these uncertain times with all these events, and also with this business breakfast, which are in the new normality, la nueva normalidad, breakfast without breakfast, which is also very good for those keeping on a diet like me on a regular basis. And of course, Minister, we would like to thank you very much for your participation today in this event. First, I would like to say that it was very nice of you to those warm words for those affected by COVID-19 on your opening remarks. And maybe I would like to highlight also from your opening remarks that you said that our links will always go beyond trade. I think that's very important for the future between our countries, between the EU and the UK. And that's, well, just thank you. And we hope to have you very soon again with us, maybe on 2021, when we know more about the agreement that we're going to close. Maybe you will tell us, and it will be interesting and challenging to know what is going to happen. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. So with this, we finalize the webinar. Just a reminder that after the summer break, we will retake our Meliá Business Breakfast webinar series with Tom Tugendhat, and who is the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Commons, in what will be another very interesting session. So thank you very much, Mr. Morton. Thank you. It has been tremendously insightful. Thank you very much for considering time to the chamber, and have a nice day, everybody.
Go ahead.
Thank you.